The photo came through on an ordinary Tuesday, mid-laundry, mid-thought about dinner. My sister's name flashed on my screen, a picture sent to the wrong person. I opened it without thinking, and in 1 second, 8 years of my marriage turned into a lie I hadn't known I was living. My husband, holding 2 newborns. The caption, "Daddy loves you both." I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just stood there and felt something inside me go permanently still. My name is Nicole Young. I'm 38, a forensic accountant. I spend my days finding the inconsistency people think no one will notice. I never thought I'd need those skills at home. Charles and I married when I was 30. Ambitious, magnetic, building a logistics company from nothing. We talked about the family we'd have like it was inevitable. It wasn't. 2 years trying, then the appointments, the injections, the bruises I hid under looser shirts. 3 lost pregnancies, each one a private grief, because Charles always seemed to recover faster than I did. I blamed my body. I blamed everything except the truth, because I didn't have access to it yet. Through all of it, Charles held my hand and said, "We'll get through this together." I believed him the way you believe the sun will rise. My sister Emily was there too, 3 years younger, always warm, always available with a hug or a call me, anytime. She used to say she admired my strength. I never once considered that admiration and envy wear the same face. The day the photo came, Emily called almost immediately after. I picked up and said nothing. "Nicole," she said, voice cracking, "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I hung up. I didn't need to ask a single question. 8 years of forensic training taught me one thing. Once you find the first inconsistency, you don't confront the person who created it. You gather everything first. So I opened my laptop, found the highest-rated family law attorney in the city, and 2 days later, sat in his office, signing the initial paperwork for divorce. My hand didn't shake. I went home and made dinner like nothing had happened. Because for the first time in years, I understood. I wasn't the one who needed to explain myself. People who are confident they'll never get caught leave the messiest trails. Charles had spent 8 years maintaining the story of a devoted husband suffering through infertility beside me, and people busy maintaining one story rarely notice they're leaving evidence of another. I started with the joint account, buried in grocery runs and utility payments. 4 charges to the same hotel, always Thursday into Friday. I cross-referenced the dates against my phone's location history. 3 of them lined up exactly with weeks I was recovering from IVF, weeks Charles told me he needed to clear his head at the office. Emily, meanwhile, had always said she was just driving Charles to appointments I couldn't make. I found records showing those appointments often didn't exist, and in an old shared cloud folder Charles had forgotten to deactivate, I found 3 years of photos. Emily standing too close at his office party, a business trip with a beach nowhere near any client site. They hadn't been careless. They'd simply never imagined I would look. There's a particular pain in confirming a betrayal you already half suspected, different from the shock of one you never saw coming. Underneath it, something colder was taking shape. Clarity. For 8 years, I'd absorbed every hard moment as my own failure. Now I understood. I'd been carrying the weight of someone else's choices the entire time. I didn't confront Charles. I didn't call Emily back. I built a file. Every charge, every mismatched alibi, every time-stamped photo, organized the way I'd organize evidence for a client, without commentary, because the facts didn't need my anger attached to them. My attorney, Daniel Brooks, read through it in our second meeting. Expression unreadable. "This is thorough," he finally said. I told him I'd had 8 years of practice noticing what other people missed. 3 days later, my phone rang. Margaret, Charles's mother. We'd always had a warm relationship. She used to call just to check in. This time her voice was thin, unsteady, breaking before she'd said more than my name. "Please," she said, "don't tell him yet." I stood in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd seen that photo, and felt the ground shift again, beneath something I thought I already understood. She wouldn't say what. She just kept repeating those 4 words. like they were the only thing holding her together. I realized I had uncovered an affair, but somehow, impossibly, I had not yet uncovered the truth. We met 2 days later, at a coffee shop we'd been to a dozen times. Margaret looked like she hadn't slept in days. "What I'm about to tell you," she said before I'd even taken off my coat. "I should have said 8 years ago. I've regretted staying silent every day since." I asked the question sitting heaviest on my chest. "Did Emily know?" Margaret shook her head firmly. "No, neither did Charles. Only her, and one other person, Dr. Collins, my old fertility doctor." My stomach tightened. What does she have to do with this? Margaret's hands trembled around her cup. There had been a report, she said, results from testing 8 years earlier. It came to the house addressed to Charles, and she opened it by mistake. "It wasn't routine," she whispered. "I read it, and I understood that if Charles saw it, it would break something in him I didn't think could be repaired. So I called Dr. Collins and asked her, as a mother, to let me handle it in my own way." She agreed against her better judgment. Margaret looked down at the table. "I never did right by anyone. I just delayed the pain and let it grow into something bigger." She wouldn't tell me what the report said, not in pieces, she insisted. I deserved to see it properly. But before I left, she said one more thing that replayed in my head the whole drive home. "Those babies changed everything, Nicole. But not for the reason Charles thinks." I called Dr. Collins the next morning. I hadn't spoken to her in 5 years, not since Charles and I quietly agreed to stop treatment. Her voice went careful the moment she heard mine. "Margaret came to see me," I told her simply. There was a long pause. "Come in. This afternoon," she said. "I'll pull everything myself." Her office looked exactly as I remembered. Same soft gray walls, same watercolor prints meant to soften devastating news. A thick folder was already waiting. "Before I show you this," she said, "I want you to know, I've regretted my part in this for years. Margaret came to me in real distress, and I made a choice I wouldn't make again. I let a mother's fear override a patient's right to her own results." Inside were the pages I remembered, hormone panels, ultrasound notes, and near the back, a report I'd never seen, dated 8 years earlier, addressed to Charles. Never to me. I read through the clinical language until the meaning became unmistakable. The results weren't about me at all. They were about Charles. A male factor finding, significant enough that Dr. Collins had recommended, in writing, that we discuss alternative paths forward, together. That letter had gone home addressed to him. Margaret opened it, and instead of handing it to her son, made the decision alone, in a moment of panic, to protect him from a truth she thought he couldn't survive. I sat there and felt 8 years of self-blame rearrange itself into something entirely different. Every night doing mental math on what I'd done wrong. Every procedure I endured believing my body was the reason we were suffering. Every whispered apology in the dark. None of it had ever belonged to me. "Why didn't she ever tell him?" I asked, though I already understood the shape of the answer. "Fear, I think," Dr. Collins said gently. Margaret loved her son fiercely, the way some mothers do, where protecting him mattered more than the truth. I don't think she considered what it would eventually cost you both. And there it was, the second truth underneath the first. If the report was accurate and I had no reason left to doubt it, then the 2 children in that photograph weren't biologically Charles's at all, which meant Emily either didn't know the real story herself, or she was carrying something far more complicated than an affair. I didn't say any of it out loud. I simply asked Dr. Collins for copies of everything, and she slid the pages across her desk. The truth finally changing hands, 8 years too late for anyone but me. I walked out of that office holding 2 files now instead of 1. The first proved exactly what Charles and Emily had done. The second proved that the story Charles had been telling himself, the one where he was finally, triumphantly a father, wasn't even his to tell. He didn't know it yet. Margaret didn't know I knew it either. And Emily was still out there, celebrating a lie built on top of another lie, certain that I was the only person in this who didn't understand what was happening. She was wrong. I understood all of it now. And for the first time since that photo lit up my phone on an ordinary Tuesday, I wasn't the one standing in the dark.